She's an author, actress, photographer, television talk show host, pioneering feminist, and social advocate. So much more than the mother of Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, so much more than the former wife of Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Although she jokes, I used to be Pierre's wife, and now I'm Justin's mom. Today, Margaret Trudeau is the honorary president of WaterAid Canada, an organization dedicated to helping developing countries build sustainable water supply and sanitation services. In this role, she's witnessed firsthand the immense change that's possible when communities gain access to clean, safe drinking water and basic sanitation. One of her experiences aired in the CTV special, A Window Opens, Margaret and Sophie in Ethiopia in 2007.
And now you can get back your life. You really can.
Margaret's also an outspoken advocate for reducing the social stigma of mental illness, bipolar disorder in particular. She suffered from the debilitating effects of her own bipolar condition, which she chronicles in the book, Changing My Mind. Now, after seeking medical treatment, Margaret openly shares her story of recovery to help encourage sufferers to seek help. She's recognized as an honorary patron of the Canadian Mental Health Association, and in 2013 was acknowledged for her work to combat mental illness with an honorary degree of Doctor of Laws from the University of Western Ontario. Margaret Trudeau has lived a life in the public eye, her position giving a platform to speak about the causes she cares for. She describes her advocacy work as her true passion and her second calling. It's a role that I just love. I have a voice and I can use it. We are proud to call her an SFU alumna and welcome home Margaret Trudeau. And ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Margaret Trudeau.
Thank you. Well, I don't even know what to say. I saw the card on that chair there that said honorary guest, and I said, who's coming? Our special guest, who's coming? And they said, maybe the Governor General. No, to have Justin here, of course, is wonderful. But what's more wonderful is that I'm being recognized by Simon Fraser, the university that I think really shaped my mind, made me into the free-thinking, strongly principled person that I have become. It took a long time in order for me to be able to feel totally comfortable in being such a strong advocate for change, because I didn't understand that change is the one constant in life that we have. And when I was the Prime Minister's wife, I was able to witness things that normal people don't get to witness. But because I had been part of the radical Simon Fraser, I had a thinking mind. I knew how to argue. I knew how to present a case. I knew how to see all sides. Because my memory of Simon Fraser was that it was very radical. My father, my story isn't as good as yours, Dave, but my father said, Margaret, he was in cement, or concrete, I should say, and he had, I guess his cement company had built a lot of Simon Fraser, and he was very proud of it. And he gave me the choice. He said, Margaret, if you want to go to UBC, you can make your own way there. If you want to go to Simon Fraser, I'll buy you a car. Simon Fraser, here I come. I have since learned that driving a car is the ultimate freedom. You can just drive away. My years at Simon Fraser as a charter student weren't long because I took advantage of the quick semester system, and I never wanted to leave the campus. I didn't want to stop learning because it was small, it was intimate, it was lively. I remember when, just an example of the difference between UBC and Simon Fraser at the time, one of the Chicago Five, Jerry Rubin, who is a huge American activist, came to Vancouver to spread his anti-war message. And he went out to UBC first, that sprawling campus, and only about 60 people showed up. So he said, oh, well, it's a beautiful beautiful day. Let's not stay here. Let's head out. Oh, first, where are we not allowed to go on campus? And they said, oh, the only place I believe is the faculty club. So off they went to the faculty club and scared the Japanese guest who was upstairs, some prince, out of his residence. It was kind of like a panty raid, and the press treated it as such. And the next day, Jerry came to Simon Fraser, and he had 2,000 students sitting in that mall on the stairs listening to every word of the revolution he was spewing, and he was a real activist. But it was a time of big change. We were demonstrating against the Vietnam War. We were very concerned about what was happening in our world. I remember the words, the military-industrial complex that we had to destroy. Didn't succeed, but it was a very good education that I had here. And I remember that because it was PSA, political science, sociology, and anthropology, what good did it do me in my life that was to come, my destiny that was to unfold? I remember having Che Guevara, a poster of him on my wall in my basement suite in Burnaby. Who knew that a mere 6 years later, I'd be sitting talking with Fidel Castro about the real changes that real life, not theory. The same in 1976, Pierre was hosting the United Nations conference in Vancouver, and I got to host the NGO, the non-governmental. One of my great friends, Ross McDonald, is here. We were all kind of hippies, sort of, and we put on this great show. But one of the people who was there, two of the people who were there who changed my life, one was Margaret Mead. I certainly studied her in the anthropology part of the PSA department, and the other was Barbara Ward, and she stood up on the stage. It was pouring with rain in Jericho Hill at the time, and she stood up on the stage with a glass of water that had a piece of poo in it and said, "This is what most of the world's children are drinking." And it was such a shock, and she saw that the paparazzi of the world were all buzzing around me, and I couldn't move anywhere without all these cameras. And she said, "Margaret," she said, "be the pot of honey for all those bees buzzing around you. Give them nourishment. Talk about water." And as my path has seemed to be in my life, before I knew it, I was involved with an organization called WaterCan, which I've been involved with for 20 years. We put safe water, we give very neglected villages, and mostly in the past in sub-Saharan Africa, but now we do the world because we've joined WaterAid. But I've been to Africa 4 times. I have seen the difference that it makes to give, we call it a water organization, but quite frankly, it's a sanitation one, because without sanitation, you never will have clean water. It doesn't matter how many wells you put in if you don't teach about sanitation first and cleanliness and hygiene. So it was right up my alley in every way, working in the water, with clean water. And what I've seen in Africa, and that the women and the girls are so put down by the drudgery of carrying water 10 kilometers every day for their family. The girls not being able to go to school. Men don't carry water in Africa. The women do all the water work. And when we can give them in their village access to clean water, then the girls can go to school, and then they start getting educated, and then maybe we'll see real changes in the world, because it is through our girls, not only our boys. Our boys, you do very well. Obviously, my son does very well. I'm not down on boys, but I think our support, and in my feminism, which certainly was sparked at Simon Fraser, I believe that the real change that will come to the world is through the women and through the girls standing up and nurturing and being kind and compassionate and caring and putting greed behind and allowing them to be part of the real change that we're all involved in. I also studied literature, English literature. Oh my goodness, as soon as I thought political science and sociology and anthropology were quite dull, really. But literature, no, it was so wonderful. And it fueled my romantic side and my compassion passion, my feelings of heart. When I didn't know that I was going to have a great struggle in my life at that time when I was at Simon Fraser with mental illness. I didn't know I was bipolar until I had my second child and fell into the first real depression. I've lived it all. I just about lost my life, as so many do, to suicide because I didn't think after the death of my son that life was worth living. I'd lost all my faith, I'd lost all my hope, and I'd lost all my reason to boot. I had lost it all. I didn't know that I was going to have a future far bigger than my past that was to come once I recovered from, can't say that. I did not recover from being bipolar. I will always be bipolar. I will always have an exaggerated range of emotions. But what happened to me is what happened and why I'm an advocate for mental health and what should happen to anybody suffering from a mental illness or a mental disorder, anxiety, depression, who are not living their lives as their best selves. You have to come to the realization that no matter how well educated you are, how bright you are, how high functioning you are, how well you cook and raise children, you cannot fix yourself. You cannot get through a mental illness on your own. You can't get out the other side without medical help, without someone to talk to change your wrong thinking. My doctor described the way I was thinking in my manic stages, which are the most destructive part of bipolar, of course, is that I had impaired insight, that I had wrong thinking, and I'm going, don't you tell me I have wrong thinking. No, but I did have wrong thinking. And I had to accept that the way I was living, the way I was thinking, the way I was behaving was not the best me. And it wasn't serving my family well. It wasn't serving me well. And by I had no choice. I was taken in the last time I was hospitalized after the death of my son. I was taken in by the police, tied to a gurney into the emergency. I was humiliated, I was destroyed, I was wrecked. I thought I could never walk again. Imagine me, the ex-Prime Minister's wife, in a mental institution. Oh my goodness, thank goodness I was there, because they gave me back my life. They gave me back my will. They gave me back my ability to look forward to a future, to be included, to be part of. I got purpose back in my life. I have to tell you one thing, because I can't go on and on about all mental health. I'd like to for an hour. But what the truth is that first of all, we can't fix ourselves because we don't have that insight to know how wrong we are and how far away from good, healthy choices we're making, because our mind is tricking us and the chemical imbalance in our brain is not letting us be, and it's not our fault. I separate now the whole issue of mental health into two different things. We first of all have our brain. We have the mechanics of our brain, the neuroscience of our brain, which now finally is becoming a science. We are seeing how the brain works. We don't know a lot of how it works, but we know enough to see when the brain is being flooded, for example, with dopamine and putting you into the irrational but wonderful stage of mania when you think you know everything. And if you only had a pen, you'd write a great poem. If you had a paintbrush, you'd paint an amazing picture. And that's because the dopamine that is flooding our brain is in charge of our imagination, our inspiration, our genius, our new thoughts. The dopamine on our brain is what fuels that. But in a manic person, there's so much dopamine that there's no chance to have any pause for reflection, any second sober thought. One of my sons, not this handsome one that was here, but one of my other wonderful sons, told me once when I was in a manic state, he said, "Mummy, before you shop," because of course manic people do shop, "before you shop, buy anything, think 7 times." If I thought 7 times, I'd buy 7 things. But it was an issue, the whole issue of mental health. I saw how many, and particularly when I was hospitalized, how lonely and not fitting in. All the people in the ward were, how lost we were. We didn't have connection anymore. We didn't have purpose. We were marginalized and unable to really be part of life. All I wanted to was get back to life. It was a long process for me. Once the brain side, the mechanical side, which I will call our brain health, was sorted, and I got the right pharmaceuticals in to balance the chemicals, to raise the serotonin, which took me out of depression, to control the dopamine. Then I had the hard job of changing my mind. And boy, as I can change my hair color easily, not my mind. It was I think 3 years of cognitive behavioral, emotional behavioral therapy, where I had to go through questioning every one of my heartfelt thoughts and ideas that perhaps were very wrong, that were not based in reality. So I learned how I had therapy, I had pharmaceuticals, I got my brain healthy, and then I started advocating and speaking, and my doctor kept saying to me, Margaret, you're no use to anyone. If you just talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. So I learned how to walk the walk as well, and walking the walk, to have a mentally healthy attitude, to be ready, to be nous sommes prêts, comme on dit, our motto at, isn't that funny, ready, where have we heard that? We are ready, so ready. In order to be ready for everything that hits you in your life, you have to have a good night's sleep. You have to nourish yourself, not with donuts, but apparently with kale. You have... Yes. And you have to play outside. Other people call it exercise. I never go in a gym, no. But I do exercise every day outside. I find the balance in nature. I find extraordinary healing in just feeling my feet on the ground, feeling the wind, feeling the cycle of nature. Because indeed, that's what happens in our minds. We go through one cycle after the other that we have to be ready to face. I've had a lot of adversary in my life, a lot of adversity, but there's something being in me that just still pops up and fights one more round. Can we make it? The whole reason I do my mental health advocacy is because of suicide. What people don't know, who take their life so early, they think it's hopeless. They think there is no reason anymore for them to breathe, to live. They have forgotten that in every single one of us, there is a flame of hope, of spirit, of life in us that cannot be dampened. It's still there even when we're so ill in depression, with everything gray and nothing mattering. And what it is we need the help from not only from the medical community, we need it from our family, we need it from our friends, we need it from our work colleagues. We need them to fan this little flame of hope that is in us and let it burn bright again. I just about missed all that I have now. 7 grandchildren, a son who's doing very well, and other children doing very well, and being a participant, having purpose, having life, having an ability to reach out. And I know that the most important thing that I learned from Simon Fraser, and my friend Ross will concur, is learned about the now, about being present in your life, about being here and now, leaving the past behind, only learning from it, letting you learn, and as well, when you have nothing else to do, pull up those wonderful old memories. I have quite a few, but not thinking too much of the future. You'll get to your future. You will get there. Inevitably, you will be in your future. And yet, you know what? You'll still be right in the now. And I've learned, and I remember the comparative religion courses that I took at Simon Fraser. Who knew that I would get to meet a pope? Oh my goodness, I was disappointed. I had questions written in my hand, hot little hand, ready for the Pope when Pierre and I met him. He was very old, he was very holy. And he had a long discussion with my husband, who was a very strong Catholic, about Middle East peace and the world. And then he asked my husband, my son, do you have any questions of faith? Oh, Pierre said, no, my faith is strong. And then he turned to me, and I've got my questions, a lot of them, particularly, of course, as the role of a woman in the Catholic Church, etc. And he said to me, I understand you have 3 sons. And he reached out his hand, and he patted me on the head and said, surely you are blessed amongst women. That's it. And I couldn't say anything more. You can't question the Pope. You have to just say. And I was so angry when I left, and Pierre was laughing at me. And I said, but I didn't get to ask any of my questions. And he said, but Margaret, I think you got your answers. I've also had the honor of meeting, the privilege in my life. I studied Buddhism, I studied the Ishmaeli religion, and I have had, I don't know why on my path, I've had some of the great spiritual leaders to sit down and talk to, and I have come to one conclusion. There is only love, my friends. There is only love. It comes from deep within, and it should be what is ruling. Every action, every thought is out of compassion, out of kindness, and right now. And if not me, well, it'll be somebody else, some wonderful other person. And if not when, well, it better be now, because we can't wait much longer to really make the huge revolutionary changes we need in this country, on our planet. And I think we're poised and ready. And I wish every student at Simon Fraser the great luck that I've had in having had my mind open, being taught to question, and being taught to reach a little bit higher than I ever thought I could. I'm very grateful, humbled indeed, to be given this award, because when I was a Simon Fraser student, I was just Margaret Sinclair. I had no attachments. For all of my life, I've had a role that I never thought I would have, but I have. And it's been a hard one to live up with sometimes, but my greatest pride is that I was educated, and I was able to face the world head on with confidence that I had a good mind and that I was ready. Nous sommes prêts. Thank you very much, and thank you for the honor to the Alumni Association. Thank you.